Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some very interesting news to cover over here where Sony seems to be expanding now and kind of doing potentially maybe either a really good or really bad next step big investment for their company. Now, as you guys know, there's a lot of different other regions, a lot of different other areas when it comes to people who play games, make games, develop games, market games, or whatever it may be. And we've kind of been seeing like a lot more of this push in certain Asian regions. Now, obviously, when it comes to this type of stuff, you have billions of people, like almost a large majority of the entire world population, in places such as China, India, and of course, places like Japan, Philippines, etc. All that put together means that we just have a lot of good, basically, potentially marketable people that are able to buy games and want to play games, and especially with phones, laptops, and everything that was coming out there, it's kind of a big reason why I want to dive on into it. So we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive over here because we have some big expansion plans coming, and as well, just a lot of things to discuss. Maybe good, maybe bad. As well, if you guys are brand new, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on, as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 $500 or Xbox Series X giveaway. We're actually, I think, very, very close to as well as 60K. I think it maybe rounds up, so make sure you guys hit that sub so we can hit that goal. I mean, we don't want to if you guys want. It's up to you guys. We have the Twitter and Twitch down below for bonus entries and Amazon and Target links as well down below. And I just want to say I appreciate you guys all so much for watching here in the first place. So very first and foremost, we've had a double whammy. We kind of started off even more conversation with this is about a few weeks ago we had Microsoft want to go and plan and push quite a bit into Chinese markets. Now, that's a big thing to know, and I think that's a big thing in general, mainly because markets, there's, like I said, billions of folks that live there. But one thing to note is now Sony has been trying their best to make their big push into this. Now, this is from Reuters, and it's kind of sparked a lot of discussion. But basically, Sony wants to expand now to Chinese game incubators in Microsoft now to go be a little bit of a Microsoft head-to-head. So the kind of big cover story for this, and we'll go a little bit more in depth with it, both PlayStation and Xbox realized with games like Genshin Impact, and that's the one thing that I think has been sparking up this big like industry-wide debate and people discussing. Genshin Impact is a money printer, and we kind of discussed this maybe about a few weeks ago, where PlayStation somehow was able to go get Genshin Impact up on its platform, and that has been a huge money maker from the microtransactions, but as well keeping people physically, on the PlayStation, downloading the game with it, etc., etc. Because for those types of games like League of Legends, CS:GO, even Genshin Impact, gacha style games, those just print money nonstop. They make a lot of money, they make a lot of good money, and a lot of consistent money, and a lot of the times it's not necessarily the hardest games to maintain and develop. Now, obviously, Genshin's a pretty big and well-versed game, but when it puts all this stuff together, it kind of goes to show that, well, you can make a lot of good money once you have the base there and keep on getting out the player base with it. So that's a big thing to know. Like, it's a very, very big thing to know. So as we kind of want to talk about this more, we're going to discuss this, where basically Sony to pump even more money now into the Chinese PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4 game projects, and as well, we're going to probably be seeing Microsoft do a lot too. So basically, as they promise us a huge China hero project reboot, and they're essentially just going hardcore and trying their best to make sure this all works out. So as of right now, Sony has been coveting Chinese game developers for some time now, and its approach is beginning to now start bearing fruit. Genshin Impact, as we mentioned before, a title playable on both the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4, has now become one of the biggest releases in the world, and the fellow China Hero Project productions like Fist, Forge and Shadow Torch have been adding meaningful variety to the platform holders' indie game output. Now, a big thing to kind of note, though, is that, as we mentioned, there's billions of people who live in China, both for production-wise, so actually making the games. So, as of right now, a lot of these kind of Asian-based cultures, they're not as developed. Like, that's just an honest-to-God thing, which might be a critique or maybe something that might be really fruitful in the future. But as of currently, there's just not as many folks who are making games to a super high standard level, and it's just not like a normalized structure in places like China, etc. Maybe India too as well. Like, there are devs there. There's people studying to be devs, and I'm sure there's really top tier devs out there, but it's not as formulaic as we have here in America. When it comes to America, as you guys know, we have multiple huge, big gaming studios with many, many years of long-term development planned and also integrated into their normal corporate structure. So think like Bungie, or think companies like, Naughty Dog, or whatever you guys want to say for PlayStation Studios. They have a number one reputation, but number two, experience, and also budget. Now, that's something that has to be earned. Now, it's not a bad thing, and you have to start at some point, and I believe this is kind of where they're trying their best to go and start, both on Microsoft and basically in like Sony, because if you have billions of people, trust me, there's going to be some folks out there, whether they make their own game studio purely for future Chinese-based games, or even for the Chinese markets, or as well, they'd be potentially really good folks to poach and go bring them to America and have them try their best to kind of like work a lot of coding, development, graphic design, storyboard, or whatever it may be. And that's one of the big things is that there's also a lot of nationalistic type vibes. Good examples like, say, like the Switch in Japan. You want to be able to go and represent your country, and if you have, let's say, a huge Chinese-based game, that actually might have a lot of homegrown support when it comes to the game itself. So basically, it's something that manufacturers are eager to basically go and continue. They want to get people making games, selling games, and breaking into these new markets, because this is kind of where they foresee their future growth coming. So according to a report published by Reuters, it's now planning for Sony to invest more than 1 million won, to around $140,000, which doesn't maybe seem like much, but reminder, it says into each title that it incubates. Balbo, the director of the initiative, made the commitment as part of an event in Chengdu earlier today, as the program was officially relaunched following the pandemic. So what that kind of basically means, in case you guys aren't familiar with it, comes to a lot of like financial talk and all that, is number one, when it comes to this, it goes to show that could be millions of dollars being spent. Like, you can usually incubate a lot of games, and these big angel investors will typically go and throw like, let's say, 100 different projects. So at that point, that could be like, into like almost getting close to like just millions of dollars. And they just hope that one game or two games, or maybe even a few might be mid-tier games, have some sort of success. And they use that $140,000 maybe to go and have like 2 or 3 more employees. Or maybe you kind of notice they need to have like more marketing. Or maybe they notice they need to go and have, maybe better animations or assets, or maybe like some more play testers, so they see the potential there. And this is what Sony is trying to do. They want to go and basically invest in early and find another Genshin Impact. Now, Genshin Impact's a little bit of a bigger game, harder to say, but you never know what might come out. Especially, as I mentioned, with billions of folks, you never know which studio might be the top tier and the pinnacle for when it comes to actually getting these games. So basically, Sony is calling the next set of projects it signs as its third season, and it promises that the output will be greatly exceed the previous 2. One such project on the docket is Lost Soul Aside, which the manufacturer signed many years ago, but is now targeting an early 2024 launch as a release that will be published globally by the organization. As you guys are seeing too, we're also seeing rumors now with the Wukong type game. We have these other various games such as Genshin Impacts that we reference, and it just makes sense to throw in more money and make it available for everyone else. So the Japanese giant, as you said, as mentioned, is very eager to increase its install base in its potentially lucrative region, with Sony Interactive Entertainment Shanghai's president Tatsui Yuichi eager to sell twice as many PS5 consoles in the country as the PS4. And that's a big thing to note too, because we've seen good movement with, like, say, Japan, China, India, but not as much as we're expecting. Like, if you guys want to compare that to the UK or America, the console sales are absolutely abysmal, especially with the ratio of how many people live there, but it also makes sense, as I kind of start off this video on, like, they just don't have as much developed, basically, studio when it comes to how many people are making games, buying games, or getting games. Now, mobile, though, has been growing immensely. That's kind of why Microsoft and Microsoft and Sony, well, they're trying their best to get inside of this. So, big thing to know. So, as of right now, like I said, they had the PS4 at an install base around 3.5 million units in China, while the PS5 has sold only 670,000 units. Now, the article is saying that's good, and I don't think that's horrible at the end of the day, but for how many billions upon billions of folks are in these Asian countries, barely selling a few million consoles is almost irrelevant. So they definitely want to go and probably bump up the production and start selling these home-based consoles in there too as well to get their deals. So they say, we want gamers around the world to better understand the creativity that comes from China, Yuichi said. I have always had a dream, which is for console gaming to become a regular part of daily entertainment for Chinese people. Sony will be hoping it can find many more Genshin Impact-style gems that can hopefully help achieve that. So the big thing is that both PlayStation and Microsoft are trying to be the biggest devs and biggest push they can to go milk that Chinese, Asian, Japanese, India markets and make as much money as they can. Now, I think it's smart. That might also get us more better games here in America as time goes on, and the best time to invest is now. So give me your thoughts and comments down below. So if any of you guys are brand new, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on, as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 giveaway. Amazon links down below for all the signups, same with the Target links too as well. And I appreciate you guys all so much here for watching in the first place, and thank you guys all so much for being here.